Good evening and welcome. I am Amarachi Ubani. Tonight, President Muhammadu Buhari and his Cameroonian counterpart Paul Biya agreed to sustain the attack against Boko Haram. Budget 2016 may be signed into law this week as Federal Executive Council approves 34 priority projects for execution. Former Minister of Education Iyabo Anishilowo joins us from her Ilaro residence in Enugu State, live on the News at 10 to recount her ordeal in the kidnapper's den. And Ohio Governor John Kasich drops out of the U.S. presidential race, leaving Donald Trump as sole candidate of the Republican Party.
On business news tonight, Nigeria's inflation rate expected to rise further in April ahead of the official data release from the National Bureau of Statistics.
And on sports news tonight, Real Madrid oust Manchester City to set up a clash with local rivals Atletico in the final of the UEFA Champions League.
We begin tonight with reports just coming in from the presidency that the president, Muhammadu Buhari, is in a closed-door meeting with some leaders of the All Progressives Congress, the APC. It's not clear yet what the meeting is all about, but our State House correspondent confirms that the Senate President, Bukola Saraki, Senate Leader Ali Ndume, and Speaker of the House of Representatives are in attendance. Others are the National Chairman of the party, Chief John Oyegun, the Governor of Imo State, and the National Leader of the party, Chief Tony Momo, among others. There has been some level of certainty from both President Muhammadu Buhari and his counterpart from Cameroon, Paul Biya, that the war against terror will finally be won. As follows the belief of both men that concentration should now be on how to sustain the onslaught against Boko Haram for their defeat. At a joint World Press Conference in Abuja, both leaders reaffirmed their determination to sustain the fight against terror until all militant groups are exterminated. I'd like to warn that the pictures you're about to see contain flash photography. Our State House correspondent, Chukwuma Onekusi, reports.
President Buhari and his special guest on the second day of the state visit chose to journalists on some burning issues concerning the two countries and the outcome of the meeting.
Honorable ministers.
Also present are ministers and other key government officials from both countries. A communique from the two-day meeting covers the success achieved so far in the fight against Boko Haram, increased interest in investments in the two countries, and a readiness to work with each other in trade and investments.
The two presidents commended the efforts of both the Cameroonian and Nigerian military under the multinational joint task force.
The ministers signed the joint communique. The Cameroonian president, who spoke through an interpreter, expresses a determination to fight Boko Haram to the end. He also debunks reports that Cameroon is not cooperating in the fight against Boko Haram.
Cameroon has never was reluctant in the fight against Boko Haram. Yes, I had this information. I had it in Europe during conferences that Cameroon served as basis for Boko Haram. But what can Cameroon benefit from that? The ideology? Are we going to benefit from finances? No. It was just a bad press, and Cameroon remained focused and committed to the fight against Boko Haram.
While the Nigerian president is grateful for what Cameroon and the G7 have done so far in the war against Boko Haram.
On the security aspect, I remain grateful to the Lake Chad Basin Commission because on my arrival, we found out some of the efforts made and we built on it, especially the multinational joint task force. And we thank you. We thank other members of the multinational joint task force.
The two presidents expressed commitment to the upcoming second session of the Regional Security Summit in Abuja on the 14th of May and to implement the outcome of the meeting to ensure peace and security in the affected areas in the Lake Chad Basin. Chukwuma Umrekusi, Channels Television News.
To the North region now, where the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, has commended the soldiers fighting insurgency under Operation Crackdown. The General Officer commanding 7th Division, Major General Victor Enugu, is leading the operation in Bama. He held a meeting with the Army boss before proceeding to Banki to address the troops. According to General Buratai, this is part of the federal government's plan to end the insurgency in the northeast.
Already inside the Sambisa forest. So far, so good from the brief I have received from your General Officer Commanding. This operation is very, very crucial, and we need to move in and continue to press hard to conclude this operation quickly. This is in the overall plan of the Operation Lafia Dole, and indeed is part of the federal government's plan to end this insurgency in the northeast. So we are here today to say well done, Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief. President Muhammadu Buhari is quite pleased with your operations, with what you are doing. I want to tell you also that Nigerians are happy with you, with the successes that have been achieved so far. But we must crack them down. We must continue to push them until they are completely down.
In other news, the Federal Executive Council has approved 34 strategic priority projects to be implemented with the 2016 budget. The projects were contained in a document presented by the Ministry of Budget and National Planning to the Council, presided over by Vice President Yemi Oshibajo. Briefing State House correspondent at the end of the meeting, the Minister of State for Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, said the government is expecting a final copy of the 2016 budget from the National Assembly for the President's assent. The 34 priority projects are grouped into 4 broad objectives, including security, policy governance, diversification of economy, circa for vulnerable Nigerians, and relating the economy through investments.
These 34 strategic areas are grouped under 4 major objectives. The first one being policy, governance, and security. The second one, diversification of the economy. And the third one being creating support for the poor and the vulnerable, and the fourth one being reflating our economy through investments. The paper was well received by Council. We got some very positive comments from members of Council, and a decision was taken today to approve these 33 priority programs and projects for implementation. And the Ministry of Budget and National Planning has been given the responsibility to track and report on a quarterly basis to the Federal Executive Council on the performance of these key priority areas.
A delegation of governors elected on the platform of the All Progressives Congress has condemned the attack in Nimbo community in Enugu State, insisting that the perpetrators be brought to book. The governors, during a visit to Enugu, told Governor Ifeanyi Ugwanyi that those who attacked his people will not have rest until they're arrested. The APC delegation was led by the governor of Imo State, Chief Rochas Okorocha.
Following the recent attack on Nimbo community in Enugu State, southeast Nigeria, a delegation of APC governors are in the state to sympathize with the state governor and the people. pleasantries exchanged, the head of the delegation and the governor of Imo State, Rochas Okorocha, condemns the attack.
Your government and the people of Enugu State have shown maturity in handling the matter of this level of provocation. In some areas and some countries, it would have been a different story by now. And we want to assure the good people of Enugu State that we are going to join hands with the federal government of Nigeria to make this possibly the last of such incidents in the Federal Republic.
The governor of Borno State, Kashim Shettima, shares the pain of the people of the state, having dealt with the similar situations back home in the northeast.
It is particularly important for us to express our heartfelt sympathy because as victims of the terror associated with the Boko Haram, we know the meaning of terror and the associated grief. We have lived with that for over 7 years and we have been able to retain stoicism, largely because of the empathy we have received from our compatriots from all over the country, including the sympathy of the good people of Enugu State.
The host governor commends his colleagues for showing support at a time like this.
Your Excellencies, your visit today is, to say the least, very heartwarming and goes to confirm that Nigerians all over the country do share a common sense of grief and loss with us over this unfortunate incident.
As the visitors depart, the people of Nimbo and the entire state are looking up to the Commission of Inquiry to unravel the perpetrators of the attack.
In part two, after the break, Senator Iyabo Anishilowo joins us from her Ilaro residence to recount her experience at the hands of her abductors. Please stay with us.